This is KARE 11 News at 5.
Up next, all along they thought he did it. Now he's finally going to prison 14 years after his crime. Plus, storm victims begin to realize just how bad they have been hit. Some are losing their homes and their work. Others are learning they won't get their power back for days. But first, a danger of these storms you might not think about and how it may have contributed to a man's death. And that is tonight's top story this Thursday, June 26, 2003. Good afternoon. Paul Majors has the day off. A fisherman has been swept away in the Mississippi River.
A river that's running higher and faster after our heavy rains. And what happened today proves it doesn't take much to become its victim. KARE 11's Kari Campbell is live with more.
Brad and Diana, I'm at Monoman County Park in Fridley, where behind me you can see where Rice Creek converges with the Mississippi River. Now that point behind me, I'm told, is a popular fishing spot, and that's exactly what one man was doing this morning before he was last seen in the water. Now 911 dispatch received a call around 9 o'clock this morning from two fishermen on Monoman Point. They said they saw an Asian man neck deep in water about 25 feet offshore. When they turned around again, he was gone. Dozens of rescue workers from several agencies combed the water today, and around 2 o'clock, the Anoka County Sheriff's Department and the Hennepin County Water Patrol found the man's body about 150 feet downstream. Now, it's unclear why the man went into the river, whether he went in intentionally or he slipped, but either way, officials have advice for anyone near water.
I know it's difficult for people to conceive, but wearing a life jacket near water is not a foolish thing to do. We've had several drownings in the last 2 years. Most of our drownings in the last 2 years have been from shorelines where people have slipped into the water.
Now, rescuers tell me today that all of this week's rain certainly did not help with the elevated water levels and help with their rescue at all today, but they were happy after about 5 hours to have found the body and be able to give the man's family some closure tonight. Brad and Diana?
All right. Thank you, Kari. Well, the lights are back on at two very important businesses in tornado-torn Buffalo Lake. The nursing home and water treatment plant are back up and running. And that's not the only progress. KARE 11's Christine Haas is live with that story. Christine?
The heavy gray clouds yesterday made way for some sunshine and blue skies in Buffalo Lake today. The rain is starting to come back in, and that's really not good news for cleanup crews right here back of the church trying to clean up and get pieces together. But the sunshine earlier today provided a small shot of optimism for residents and cleanup crews who are trying to pick up the pieces.
Really brings out the best in people, this situation like this.
If you were to search the town of Buffalo Lake looking for optimism, Tom House's house would be the last place you'd expect to find it.
Hey, how you doing, Judy?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Well, better.
Yeah.
It would be hard to be worse than Tom was Tuesday night. His home was likely damaged beyond repair, and the places he works, the post office and Zion Lutheran Church, were also hit hard. The past 2 days have been a test of his mettle.
If it is, it's a damn good one.
As the hours stretch on, the entire community is being tested. Adrenaline-fueled energy is running low, but residents grimly press on.
Everybody is getting tired. Naturally tired of looking at the mess as the days go by, but just tired of being involved with and trying to take care of and do the most that we can.
There is progress. Streets once filled with trees and debris are mostly clear, and crews are inching closer to restoring power.
A lot of crews out here. It's going pretty good.
We needed to check in, and we need you to fill out this volunteer form.
At the elementary school, volunteers are streaming in with equipment and can-do spirit.
People coming in with construction experience, and they can do certain things, and people who are just coming in they can help clean up, and that's great too.
While town officials are grateful for the help, they are already dreading the day when reinforcements pull out and the gravity of what has happened sinks in.
And at that point in time, I think when all of the strange people are out of town, our little town of people will feel it.
At this point, damage estimates from the tornado are still coming in. The only people as busy as the cleanup crews and electricity crews are insurance adjusters trying to figure out just if the homes, the businesses, and the vehicles around here are worth saving. We'll have more on this story at 6. Back to you, Brad and Di.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Well, it could be Saturday before some people in the metro get their power back, but it's not for a lack of trying. Crews from as far away as Colorado and Texas are working to restore service to some 20,000 customers. At the height of the outages from this week's storm, 200,000 customers were without power. And for some, even the help today was too late for the contents of their freezers.
They all started to thaw and we didn't have anywhere to take it, and it was just kind of smelling too.
Kathy Cooper figures she tossed out some $200 worth of spoiled food today.
Flood victims in Albertville are beginning to realize exactly what they lost.
The floor line, we had it probably up to about our waist, and then it traveled coming in through the windows along the upper level that we have here also. This was going to be a daycare area that we have, and with it being the way it is right now, it's going to take us a little bit of time to be able to bring it back to code as far as.
Wendy Richards lost her home and her livelihood. She runs a daycare out of the lower level of her home, and for now, the parents of those kids have to find someplace else. And Richards has a lot of cleaning to do before she can reopen.
In other news, a 14-year-old murder case is finally closed tonight, and the man suspected from the very beginning is going to prison. Stephen Zanter denied it for years, but this spring he admitted beating Sharon Bloom to death in 1989 after she accused him of harassing her at work. Advances in DNA technology finally caught up with Zanter, and today, so did the wheels of justice. KARE 11's Ken Speak reports.
He was bound and shackled. Having lived free for years because of an illegal search, Stephen Zanter was going to be sentenced for the 1989 murder of Sharon Bloom. Sharon Bloom was a computer analyst for 3M who vanished after she'd left work November 2nd, 1989. 10 days later, her beaten, raped body was found in a Rice County cornfield. Stephen Zanter was convicted of her murder, but the conviction was overturned by the Minnesota Supreme Court because a search of his house, during which investigators found Sharon Bloom's car keys, was judged to have been an illegal search. But recently, new tests of the evidence again pointed the finger at Stephen Zanter, and 3 months ago he admitted the murder in court.
It was only after this advancements in DNA had come forward that they could then recharge this matter, which led to the new indictment back in 2000.
This was a very close friend. I will wonder till the day I die how anybody could do this to Sharon.
In court today, relatives and friends expressed frustration that Sharon Bloom's killer could have avoided jail for so long. Afterward,
justice has been done, so this is good.
At least for the next, 17 years, he'll be incarcerated. That's, I think, we get the best we can out of the system, and we go on with our lives.
So 13 and a half years after her murder, Sharon Bloom's killer was off to prison. Stephen Zanter was sentenced to 25 and a half years. The judge said he will serve at least 17. Ken Speak, KARE 11 News, Faribault.
Before the sentencing, the judge received 20 letters from Zanter supporters. They urged the judge to give Zanter a lighter sentence, but he declined. The 25-and-a-half-year sentence with a third off for good behavior is precisely what's called for under Minnesota sentencing guidelines.
A guilty verdict ends a bizarre murder case in Fort Worth, Texas. Today, a jury found Shantae Mallard guilty of murder for hitting a homeless man with her car. He died, still lodged in the car's windshield after the woman drove home and parked the car in her garage. Mallard could get life in prison.
We're getting word tonight that 2 U.S. soldiers may have been kidnapped in Iraq, but we're not getting any details. We do know that a special operations soldier has been killed and 8 others injured in hostile fire near Baghdad, and that tops off a day of deadly attacks that have left a total of 2 U.S. soldiers dead and 14 wounded.
Well, still ahead, a historic decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that affects people's privacy in their own homes.
Plus, an unusual move by Governor Pawlenty. He's actually restoring some money he already cut. To whom and why, coming up.
And I'm Ken Barlow in the backyard. A little taste of fall in the air today, but a warm up for the weekend in the forecast just ahead.
You're watching the news on KARE 11 with Paul Majors, Diana Pierce, and Ken Barlow. This is KARE 11 News at 5.
It's being called an historic decision and a sweeping victory for gay rights. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a Texas ban on gay sex, saying it's an unconstitutional invasion of privacy.
That's a reversal for the High Court, which ruled 17 years ago there was no constitutional protection for homosexuals. And as KARE 11's Rhonda Kinchlow reports, it's a landmark decision surprising both those for and against it.
U.S. Supreme Court justices have handed down a ruling that declares the Texas sodomy law unconstitutional. The decision, however, has far-reaching effects. It stems from a case involving two men found by police in their Houston apartment having sex.
Sort of Gestapo, but that's all I have to say.
I feel like my civil rights was violated, and I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Those for and against the decision, for different reasons, find the ruling surprising.
I am surprised at the breadth of the decision. Basically, it's a dramatic leap in judicial activism, and I think in terms of looking at the decision that Roe versus Wade did to abortion, this decision very well could do to homosexuality.
I'm very pleased with the decision, and a little surprised. What I had expected the court to do would be to overturn the law on equal protection grounds, on very narrow grounds, saying that you cannot single out one group and criminalize their behavior.
Communication studies professor Edward Schappa is writing a book about the U.S. Supreme Court on gay rights issues and sees today's ruling as one more chapter.
What this decision does is it redefines homosexuality from being a crime to being simply something that some citizens are.
3 other states still have similar laws like Texas still on the books, and another 9 also have sodomy laws. The High Court's decision today will invalidate the laws in all 13 states.
If people don't like a sodomy law, they should go to their legislature and say, hey, we don't like this law, let's get it off the books. And many states did that already.
In this case, the right to privacy is guaranteed, again, by the Constitution, and that the government cannot single out a group and criminalize their behavior.
Rhonda Kinchlow, KARE 11 News.
Justices Scalia, Rehnquist, and Thomas dissented. They say the court is, quote, taking sides in the culture war and has largely signed on to the so-called homosexual agenda, end quote.
Another Supreme Court ruling bars states from appealing the statute of limitations on sex crimes after the limitations expire. In a 5-4 ruling, the court has struck down a California law that allowed old sex crimes to be prosecuted. It's a setback for prosecutors trying to pursue priests accused of past sex abuse.
If you or anyone else in your family gets paid overtime, you want to pay attention to a story we have coming up.
It's a proposal by the Bush administration that could affect millions of paychecks.
Plus, that massive wildfire in Arizona has destroyed hundreds of homes. But wait until you see what has survived the flames.
And you can feel it already. More on that change in the weather next.
Helicopters loaded with giant water buckets launched what officials call a massive attack on a wildfire near Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's burning just 5 miles from downtown, threatening homes and a school. Roughly 200 people have been evacuated. Some 345 buildings have been destroyed in that wildfire on a resort mountaintop in Arizona.
But it's what's surviving the flames that's getting attention as well. As a Mount Lemmon firefighter stands on what used to be his own home, he can only see one piece intact, a statue of the Virgin Mary standing almost untouched. The firefighter says it's just the hope he needs to begin the long task of cleaning up. No fire danger here today.
No, not at all.
No, it was a little windy though. With all the rain we've had, I don't think we had fire danger for a long time.
You almost had to get out the fleece vest
It was
today.
chilly, yeah, it was chilly, especially when the clouds came over. We also have a couple of showers out there wandering around the metro. We'll get to that in a minute. First things first, the high today struggled. Look, we didn't even hit 70 today. 69 degrees, the high in the Twin Cities, 54 the low. No rain at the airport. There have been a couple of showers. I will show you where they are right now in just a second. But none yet in most areas. They are isolated showers, and that breeze feels nice, but yeah, it is a little bit on the cool side. The weather planner for the evening does call for the chance of an isolated shower or two for the next couple of hours. Right up until about sunset, which is a few minutes after 9 o'clock, these are the types of showers and clouds that thrive on the sun. And once the sun goes away, the energy for the showers go away as well. And we see them dissipate by 11. But look at that, dropping to 57 degrees very quickly tonight. Quick temperature drop. This is our radar. Once again, our live radar out of Burnsville. A couple of showers here we're going to focus on. We'll zoom in a little bit. There are a couple of showers off to the east where they don't need it in Todd County, just east of Alexandria. It's raining there again, where we have rivers at very high levels. We'll zoom in a little closer to the Twin Cities to see what's happening here. A lot of people want to get out and do something after being holed up in your homes for so long with all the rain. It's generally okay around Ramsey County and Hennepin County, but off to the west here in Carver and farther south down towards Sibley County, there are still a couple of scattered showers around. Out toward Annandale, there's a shower or two. Hutchinson, a couple of little showers, but once again, these isolated things will tend to die out now as the sun sets. Temperatures look this way: 69 degrees here, that's the high for the day. 70 at Cambridge, 70 at Mankato, 68 at Albert Lee. Generally in southern Minnesota, close to 70. Look how cool it is to the north. And look at Grand Marais. Talk about natural air conditioning, 47 degrees. Natural refrigeration, I should say. That's pretty cool, but they love it up there. There go the clouds to the south. Sunshine for the most part today. We did once again have some clouds returning. They won't last very long. Tomorrow promises to be a brighter day, a slightly milder day, and generally dry, although towards sunset, which once again isn't until 9 o'clock, remember, there may be a shower or thunder shower at that time. Otherwise, it's just the cool air that I think you'll notice most. Here we go. Now watch as the purple shades, we haven't seen that for a while, descend through the state and come our way with lows by morning in the 40s up north and around 50 degrees in the Twin Cities. It is cool for June, a northwesterly flow this time of year. Remember last week when it was so hot, the jet stream was up in Canada? Well, it's taken another dip south, dragging the cooler Canadian and polar air into the upper Midwest. Our forecast, though, calls for a weekend warm-up. Cool breezes tonight, some breaks in the clouds. Upper 40s in the suburbs to low 50s in the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Tomorrow, increasing clouds. Thunder showers near sunset, but remember, sunset is not until 9 o'clock, so most of the day will be dry. Same thing Saturday, a passing shower, but mainly dry. Sunday looks good and warm and nice. Monday and Tuesday, even warmer with highs back to summery 80s. 71 tomorrow after a cool night in Alexandria with a thunder chance there late in the day and toward evening. And Mankato 74 with a mix of clouds and sunshine. That's it. Di, Brad, back inside to you. It's actually cooler out here than it is in the air-conditioned studio.
Is it? Wow.
It is.
That's different for a
Nice.
change, yeah. Outside of winter. Well, he doesn't do this very often.
But coming up, Governor Pawlenty restores funding to a program he already cut.
And if you weren't lucky enough to spend the afternoon at the ballpark, we have the highlights from today's Twins game.
Plus, a proposal that could affect your paycheck.
In a rare move today, Governor Pawlenty restored funding to an organization he cut just 1 month ago.
The Minnesota Gang Strike Force was set to lose millions of dollars from its budget. Now it will get its money, but we're learning tonight it may not be enough to keep the agency out of trouble. Political reporter Carrie Miller reports.
Instrumental in solving what police say was a brutal gang murder last month, the Gang Strike Force came close to being a casualty itself of budget cuts. Under the end-of-session deal struck between the governor, the Republican House, and the Senate DFL, the strike force was slated to lose up to $3 million from its budget over 2 years. But today, the governor announced he'd scraped up some money to keep the force intact, although he made no commitment for its survival in 2005.
Again, that will substantially reinstate the funding for the Gang Strike Force, get us through this period that we're in, and then we'll be able to address the ongoing funding, hopefully, during the next legislative session.
But that's not where this story ends. First, of the officers ordered to attend today's photo op, 4 are leaving the strike force tomorrow because there's still not enough money to keep them there. Second, why, 1 month after Pawlenty signed off on the budget bills, would the governor turn around and restore the money? He says he just went along with what the Senate DFL wanted, even though Pawlenty controlled the budget negotiations.
Well, we couldn't win on everything. It's the nature of the legislative process that you have to compromise.
But the DFL thinks he was worried about looking weak on crime, even though they concede they too signed off on the cut. In the end, they voted no on the final bill.
Let's make no bones about it and make no mistake about it. Whose budget was this that passed? It was the governor's budget that passed. He got what he wanted, ladies and gentlemen, and this was one of the things that was in the governor's budget. He set the table for these cuts.
What's the bottom line? The gang strike task force can get back to work. What's the moral of the story? The growing realization for Minnesotans that budget cuts aren't just numbers, and that's sure to generate some heat for the Pauleni administration. At the Capitol, Carrie Miller, KARE 11 News.
Ramsey County Sheriff Bob Fletcher, a strong supporter of the strike force, did not attend this morning's news conference. He says he's upset because the Department of Public Safety will not commit to finding the money to keep the strike force going in 2005.
As many as 8 million U.S. workers could lose their right to overtime pay if rules proposed by the Bush administration are put into place. That's according to a new study by the Economic Policy Institute, a union-backed think tank. Researchers say under the proposed rules, hundreds of thousands of hourly wage workers could be switched to a fixed salary. And most workers making more than $65,000 a year would no longer have a right to overtime pay. The U.S. Labor Department calls the study unscientific and misleading.
Well, the Twins were hoping to build on last night's late win over the Chicago White Sox today at the Metrodome, but that didn't happen. White Sox pitcher Mark Buehrle beat the Twins with a 5-hitter. Buehrle struck out a career-high 9 batters at the top of the 6th inning. Jose Valentin doubles to right center field to score a pair of runs. A throwing error allowed him to score. The White Sox beat the Twins 5-1. The Twins are now a half game behind the Kansas City Royals in the American League Central standings. Well, still to come, a 203-carat diamond. Let's see that finger there, Di.
Yeah, this is something you're going to present to me later, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Up first, so a preview of NBC Nightly News.
Tonight, reaction to that major gay rights decision by the Supreme Court. And how safe is your luggage after it's checked? It's all ahead on NBC Nightly News tonight.
And finally at 5, a priceless new display at the Smithsonian Institute. Some of the world's largest and most exotic diamonds are joining the Hope Diamond on display. The jewels range from 5 carats to a whopping 203 carats.
Hello, J-Lo.
NBC News is next.
Hostile fire, 2 more American soldiers dead in Iraq and 2 more missing tonight. Did the Bush administration underestimate the post-war dangers? Right